Now, here we are, starting off the first week of November. There's a chill in the air. Pumpkins are strewn everywhere, carved up and bloodied by the local kids. And I wonder why I haven't started a Scary Stories podcast. I've set the mood for my Halloween as I record this episode and watched all sorts of horror movies. Also, one of my favorite things. Hey everyone, welcome back to all my listeners. Hope you're all having a great day so far. And if it's your first time finding me, thanks so much and welcome. Welcome to episode 10 of my 4th season. Now, I hope you enjoyed my little scary story snippet in the beginning there. I had some fun for my Halloween night. I had some fun. But anyway, let's get this show started. I have a special guest today. Can't wait to introduce him to all of you. But in my compliance tip today, I want to bring us back to basics when it comes to documentation. And hey, I've rolled out that red carpet, poured a bourbon or two, and have had some fun with my good friend, Jordan Johnson. And be sure you stick around for the end of the interview because we're joined in by one of his 3 rascals towards the end. So sweet. And I round out today's episode with the remarkable quote on illumination from Ralph Waldo Emerson. If you've checked me out on LinkedIn, you know I'm all about compliance and protecting our physicians and valued healthcare professionals when it comes to the business of medicine. I hope this week with me brings you enough to take back to your organizations, to want to dive in deeper, to use my tips and best practices to ensure success. I hope this podcast will help you boost the quality of documentation capture and improve coding accuracy as you help your providers paint the medical picture. If you like what you're hearing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss another episode. Please write in a review and kindly drop me a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to my podcast. I'd really love your support. And as always, a friendly disclaimer. Remember, I'm bringing you the news, current healthcare industry news, my compliance tips and recommendations based on my over 10 years of experience in front office, back end, coding, and billing for multi-specialty physicians, compliance, and auditing for both E&M and surgical operative reports. These are my opinions alone and are not to be construed as legal advice. So, let's get into a very special Newsworthy that features my guest today, Jordan Johnson. I am so excited to introduce him to all of you. Now, Jordan is committed to ensuring that his patients receive the highest level of cancer care in a patient-centric environment. He provides clients with the most innovative and effective solutions and education to help increase productivity, revenue, employee, and patient satisfaction. He embraces data-driven approaches to increase efficiency and reduce waste. Jordan also wants to ensure that employees stay motivated and committed to the vision of serving patients. Jordan is avid in building skills and maintaining the momentum necessary for satisfaction and sustainability in today's market. In his leadership, Jordan understands that the true measure of leadership ability is measured by not only the ability to influence, but to sustain it. He believes conveying the importance and understanding of passion, process, tolerance, and accountability are key. Some of Jordan's ideals include leadership qualities consisting of honesty, competency, forward thinking, and inspiration. Challenging the process, encouraging ideas, creating leaders in everyone. Now, currently, Jordan is serving as the Chief Innovation Officer at Oncospark. Here, he drives value for providers, payers, and patients through technology-enabled services in the oncology space. Now, Jordan is also a member on the board of directors at the National Association of Medication Access and Patient Advocacy, the NAMAPA. Now, here he serves as a leading expert on innovative data utilization and operational disruption and optimization in the healthcare space. He has created various software programs, provided value-based driven strategies to ensure oncology and pharmacy providers and practices remain viable. He is committed to the advocates who ensure patients have less burden on their access to their providers and their overall healthcare needs. His experience, research, and insight have been used for education from vendors all the way up to the C-suite for effectively navigating the shifting healthcare landscape. His experience is both clinical and administrative, allowing him to bridge the gaps from data to outcomes of value with a streamlined and transparent approach. As a board member, he provides insight and ideas to promote the vision and impact of the NAMAPA to further empower healthcare advocates for more efficient patient medication access, education, and support. Oh my goodness, Jordan, what a bio.
That sounds way freaking fancy. Good Lord.
That's all you. Amazing.
How do I live up to that? That's amazing.
You are amazing. I'm so happy that I know you. We have been connected for so long on LinkedIn. I love it. And I had to bring you here. So thank you.
No, happy to be here. And let's, I think the introduction is, it's fancy, like it sounds all good, but at the end of the day, the track record is really impact with our social network, impact with our professionals, our patient advocates, and then what are we doing to move and advance things forward in healthcare, whether it be on the waste, fraud, and abuse side, whether it be on the patient access side. And fortunately, I get to touch kind of all components and sides of that with a clinical and administrative background. So I get involved in both sides of the fence. So definitely let's move this thing forward. I'm excited.
I love it. No, it's so absolutely true. I mean, like your whole bio reads so well, right? But getting to know you as just a person, you're so grounded, you're so down to earth. And I think that's why so many people who have the advantage of knowing you, we see that pretty quickly. You're very easy to talk to, very, very grounded.
I think that's the misconception that or the bothering factor with a lot of people these days is don't forget where you came from, guys. Exactly. I grew up in a very, very small East Texas town. I had a single mom, worked 2 jobs. I haven't forgot any of that. And I think for me, it's when people meet me for the first time, one of the original thoughts that goes through their mind is, what's this guy's what's the hidden agenda? What's his MO? But if you stick with me long enough, you realize I'm pretty much the most consistent person over time that you'll ever meet. And there is no agenda. And I'm trying to take as many people along for the ride with me as possible. And I'm extremely transparent, probably more blunt than some like. My wife reminds me daily that not everybody likes you. Guys, I'm 100% okay with that. I'm the guy that if you sit next to me on the airplane, you better get your earphones on pretty quick and listen to music. If not, you're talking to me for the next 2 hours.
For the whole 2-hour ride. Yep.
But no, I think that's it. You can't, regardless of title, a title doesn't mean anything to me, whether it's mine or somebody else's. I think it's the person. And I think a lot of people hide behind the title. And so, but how can you be approachable and humble? And that's really where the leadership and the influence start. So
completely agree. And I think that's where experience and age has a lot to do with it, right? I think when we're younger, entering a specific field, let's just say healthcare, when you're younger, you want that title. But now, with all of the experience, we really don't need a title to showcase who we are. It's the connections in our lives through all of the impact that we've made based on that experience that is so important.
So you hit the nail right on the head. The level of exposure with social media now to the people that have hidden behind title. And so for me, that's why it doesn't bother me, right? But I think there's still this culture of people that are trying to get the perception of how it looks. So I have all these letters after my name. And my question, and again, don't get me wrong, I'm all about education. I mean, I've been there, done that, got the master's degrees, all that stuff. It's great. What are you doing with it? Because I see people with 3 and 4 lines of credentials after their name. And my question's always the same. Are you doing anything with it? Has it gotten you any further? More importantly, what impact has it done to the broader scale for the patient, for the community at large? And I think for some people, they're stuck in this perception mode of where it's just, I have to look the part. There's no depth there. I just need to look the part. And you're going to get exposed so fast in today's environment, especially with social media, word of mouth, and that kind of stuff, that they may have their credentials, but they don't have a clue what they're doing. And so that's kind of the driver behind that.
Well said. Well said. Oh my goodness. All right, Jordan, let me try and move here to my first question, right? So, you and I were having some fun before we hit the record button. Okay. And like I've just shared with the audience, you and I have known each other for quite some time. Now, I remember I was a guest on some fabulous casual conference that you, in fact, put together about a year ago or more, right? On the legal processes and practices in healthcare. And that was so much fun that you invited me. And since way back then, you and I have just always seen eye to eye, kind of on stirring the pot, right? Shaking things up a little bit and wanting, really, really wanting to do better for this particular space of healthcare. And then, of course, I'm a podcaster myself, and I'm tuning in and I'm listening to this new podcast, and I felt a little bit jealous. There are some boys and yourself that are on this new podcast, Coffee, Compliance, and Chuckleheads. It's hard for me to say quickly, but it's Coffee, Compliance, and Chuckleheads. And by boys, I mean some legends in the field, in my opinion, right? There's the epic compliance guy, Sean Weiss. And then, of course, there's also former OIG special agent Eric Rubenstein and yourself. And so the three of you, in my opinion, are magic together. It's ridiculous. You guys have so much fun.
Listen, we met each other and spun this thing up over a 2-week period and said, we think this works, right? And to your point, what we just talked about in the industry is too many people are concerned about the degree and the application and what you look like on paper, but how do you fit? How does the fit? And that's what Sean and Eric and I quickly figured out is, listen, there are things that those guys know that I'm never going to know, nor do I care to know. And so I think what we exploit in each other is, growing up, we were often told, you got strengths and weaknesses. You really need to focus on your weaknesses and make those better. Screw that. That is not I don't ever look at my weaknesses. And the reason I don't is I want to exploit my strengths. Where I'm weak, believe me, I'm well aware of. And that's where Sean and Eric completely pick up in those areas that I'm weak. And then they have that same focus to where we're not trying to do or get in the space of the other person. And I think that's why the fit just works so well. And we've enjoyed it. We've got some big announcements coming out over the next few weeks. We're finalizing the website deal to get a website spun up so we can do that. But really, really focused on that is being able to have a platform that covers not just one thing, but it makes what's going on kind of relational. So it brings it down from that high level to the relational level to where people can actually, ingest it and digest it and be able to get something from it.
I love it. And like I said, and you guys bring the fun. It's the three of you, right? So the banter, that back and forth is just amazing. Along with the crazy content of the ridiculous fraudsters that we see every week after week. And what is that award that you guys give out that has a funny name?
Chucklehead of the Week, man. That's
Chucklehead of the Week.
It's the equivalent to the Dummy of the Month Club, but we do it. We try to do it weekly, and it's just I think that's good because it lets people know that this crazy stuff does go on. The people that think doesn't go on does go on, and we can kind of confirm it. But no, it's a super fun platform, and I love those guys, and we've had a great time doing it, and hopefully have a long future ahead of kind of paving the way for things and people to do things a little bit differently.
I love it, Jordan. All right, do you think you're going to ever tiptoe into your own podcast, or are you happy with this trio?
I like the trio. I probably shouldn't do one on my own. I don't know. I have fun, helping other people. How many more people can we bring into it? The energy level I think is lost because we feed off of other people. So if I did one on my
Right.
own, I think just wouldn't be there. And so what we've been able to do is something I want to kind of stay focused on that for a while. Not to say that it won't ever be done, but we'll see. And if Joe Rogan calls, possibly.
I know. All of you guys love Joe Rogan. I
Figure that
know.
out, man.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, Jordan. Now, you know what? My listeners here, when I bring my guests on, I like to talk about their journeys, right? Everybody has a past. Everybody has a history that we should get to know to understand who you are today. So if you can, I'd hope you could share with my audience some of the steps you took to get you here. So how did you become Jordan Johnson?
Golly, man, and blame that on my mom. Yeah, right. So, born in a tiny town in East Texas, graduated, high school, and guys, like I told you, single parent. The thought of me going to college was slim to none. Mom remarried. I had a chance through a scholarship to go to junior college, and really, the drive that was instilled in me then is now. I wasn't by far definitely wasn't the smartest person, but I had something unique. One, I didn't have the silver spoon background, so I knew it was, blood, sweat, tears, but then I knew I could outwork whoever. And so that's what I did. As I studied more, I did more. I didn't go out, and I pushed through, first degree, college degree was done. And then it's like, do you go to med school? I went to radiation therapy school, pushed through that at MD Anderson. Went to Duke, stayed there, pushed through my master's, then got into administration. And I'm in administration as a service line admin for oncology at 26 years old, 27 years old. And this is like a serious position, and everybody's like 50 years old and 55. And it's, how do you get people to buy in? And you just learn that those traits, the small town traits of literally being honest and transparent. And guys, when I say so transparent, not just give a little, like I'm the most transparent ever. If you want to dissect me, good luck, because odds are it's already out there. And that's my wins and my losses. Like, so I count both. So, I hear the good stuff and I hear the bad stuff, and I really don't listen to any, because I just kind of stay down the middle. But how I was able to do it was, you get those degrees. And then I realized the paper is just paper. It was the relationship and knowing people. And so we started speaking at conferences, and I got my first break by Travis Prowant and Nick Gimme in the Virginia Society of Radiologic Technologists when I first got out. And from there, it was just making those connections, becoming visible, becoming credible, but most importantly, being consistent. I can't stress enough that being consistent. It's where most people fail is, it's like the people that do the podcast for 3 weeks and wonder why the heck something good hasn't happened. Like, what the hell? I've been doing, listen, I was an original LinkedIn member, guys. So when you look at it and it's like, he's got 15,000, I should have 15,000. I was literally on LinkedIn. Like when LinkedIn came out, I was there. So I know the algorithm, but I've stayed consistent with it. I've put out content. I haven't pushed sell. You push value. And you can only do that when you have a long-term game strategy. So everybody looking to make it now, it's just impossible. So with that mentality and that mindset, that's how I've been able to kind of get where I'm at, and being able to, parlay that network of reaching out to people. I mean, how many times do we say this? Oh, you're the same way, but I speak at all my conferences. At the very end, I give my contact information. When I say my contact information, my cell phone out on stage. Anybody can call me anytime, and nobody ever calls. And literally, that's what I did that was different, is I was the guy that called. I was the guy that called anybody that would make themselves available. I called, and it works. It works. And just most people, that's why if I put out a job application, it's not the formal going Indeed.com. I'll post it somewhere and make them reach out to me, because you've basically taking care of 90% of the people that wouldn't apply for simply just reaching out. They just want to have it on a piece of paper, and you look great on a piece of paper. So I think that was again, be consistent over time and just be willing to put in the work. And what I mean by work is not just be busy. Too many people have the misconception, and I touched on this in a post yesterday. Work-life balance is crap. Okay. I don't believe in work-life balance, guys. I believe in work-life choices. Choices have consequences. Figure out what makes you happy. I know plenty of people making 50 grand a year that get to see all their kids' ball games, do stuff, and that makes them happy. And that is awesome. And vice versa, I know people making 2 or 3 million a year that are super, super miserable and don't see anything. You got to find what's right for you and then go with that. Every situation is unique. And then once you figure that out, I think the sky's the limit for you.
Amazing. So many points that you hit home on, right? Consistency,
yeah,
persistence, and finding your passion, right? And sticking to it. If you're happy with your work-life choices, right? And sticking to 50 grand a year, but you get to spend time with the wife, the kids, do the ball games, do it all. That's wonderful. And stick to it. You won. You're a winner.
Why is the damn measure of success a certain high level salary? Why have we created that as a level of success? And then this whole burnout term is so aggravating to me, because maybe you're not burnout. You know, guys, I know you follow Gary Vee and stuff, but what if it was just great for a season and now you want to do something else, find something else to do? Right. Doesn't mean you're burnt out, but we've created these stigmas that I think need to be destroyed or at least exploited, because I don't think they're easy cop-outs.
And you know what? This is kind of a worldwide phenomenon, this status of finance, right? I have family around the world. And so I'm speaking from experience. It's not just here in the US where, oh, you're only going to make it if you make 6 figures. You're only going to make it if you own this car or live in this type of house, right? It's kind of everywhere. It's worldwide.
No, it's everywhere because everybody's reached this pinnacle lifestyle. The thing is, they're not willing to do without. Right. And they like to buy dumb crap to impress people that don't matter. And then later in life, to your point, you figure out that didn't matter, and now you're too far behind. I tell people I've got a farm down here in Mississippi, and I wouldn't skip a beat at the snap of a finger. I could sell all this tomorrow and go back. I haven't forgot the 725 square foot house that I grew up in with a single parent. I mean, I got that. I can go back to that tomorrow.
Right.
People can't do that. They can't fathom the thought of having to do that because of what people may think. And that's your downfall. That's your downfall. And that's another reason that if you ever want to try to compete with me, I'm going to exploit that. I'm going to beat you. Because if those are because those are such superficial flaws, like you got to get over that. And I think that's, you got to teach your kids that, and people don't teach your kids what really, really matters. And I think those are the hard calls in life for people, because they're not leading by example.
Yeah. And that's a different podcast topic altogether, right? Sure. About values. Yeah. We sort of let go of our values here. Totally agree with you. But I think that's why you and I aligned so well, is because we do come from a background of, you have to have hard work. You have to persist at it and be consistent every single day and make a difference, right? I think that's exactly how we were raised. You have to be able to make some sort of impact and leave a legacy behind in whatever profession it is that you choose. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. And I think that's people struggle with that. They think what I went to college for has got to be my legacy, and that's not necessarily the case. Or is it money? Is it? It's actually way more simple than that. We just make it we
overcomplicate everything as human beings, for sure. All right, Jordan. All right, now you know what? Let me move on to my next question. Right now, you know that I'm all about working smarter for coding compliance. And that's how I want to affect change in this space of healthcare. But I want to hear your voice, because you are very different than me. You are the guru of data. And I'm just going to call you that because I give you so many projects over the years. Look at all my data. Help me with my data. Please analyze it, right? You make it look, in my opinion, so very easy. So easy, despite the volumes of data sent to you. It's like you live for this stuff, and I'm like, no.
I just try to be, I try to be a little bit ahead of the curve, right? But it wasn't. So I mean, I knew how to audit and do all this stuff and code and all that, like the fundamentals. My thought was, I almost saw it as a job protection mechanism for some people that like, I don't want it to change because if it changes, then I may not have a job. But then I thought, well, if it does change, I at least want to be on the side that's helping change and move it forward. So, you're never going to do this. No machine's ever going to do it 100%. You've got to have the subject matter experts that truly understand the foundational rules and things like that. Those are the people that drive the software forward. The rest is just knowing, and it's not even complicated, database and software. Guys, 90%, 99% of this is literally Microsoft Excel. And so we do so much of this in Excel that can show you there's lots of data out there, but what data is actually important? And not only what's important, what's actionable and what can we do something with? And I think so many people get caught up in just, it's a code, it's a code, it's a code, but what's the bigger scale? And the thing is, somebody's, as a coder, people are stealing your work. Okay, guys, you don't know this, they're stealing your work and they're claiming it for themselves because they're making these higher level decisions off of your work, and you're oblivious or blind to the fact. And that's in the long run, that's going to have horrible effects. I don't know what the future looks like. People ask me all the time, well, what do you think about coding and all that? I mean, we pump out all these coders, and then we see what's going on in the economy and healthcare. They can't get nurses, they can't do that. Is there going to be an offset? We don't know the answer to that. I think there's always value in knowledge, but how do you marry that knowledge with some form of technology? And that becomes a quote unquote, even though there's not, a safer place.
Amazing. So, you know what kind of advice do you have for small practices, your solo types of providers, in terms of what their little small teams can do with their data, right? Because I keep telling everybody I can that they do generate their own data. They create it.
Yeah, and they own it.
And they own it, right? Yes.
So the misconception there is pretty simple. The misconception is that, and that's been my frustration point with these large companies that have software, is that it costs too much to do anything. And they've been jaded by that. Literally, we can look at, how things are being done by disease site, number of, claims, paid claims, charge claims, very simple stuff that's very inexpensive. And it's frustrating because they think they've been priced out and they can't do it. And so they just kind of roll over. And then they say, oh, dang, we can actually do this, and see some of the data, make some of our practice decisions, our operational decisions. And all of a sudden it makes a big difference, more than just, the traditional, what we say, the 10 chart audit, right? It's good to check 10 charts, but 10 charts may not be the representative sample of everything you're doing. And so now if we can programmatically look at some of that, whether it be referral patterns, financial leakage, market share, all kind of little stuff that there's KPIs to hook into. I mean, and it doesn't have to be done with some integrated, guys, you got to get over the AI machine learning because the majority of it is crap. Okay. Most of the AI machine learning is literally Excel if then statements. that's exactly what AI machine learning is for the most part. And so people have been jaded to that it's some big, expensive algorithmic software, and it's simply not.
Amazing. What insights you provide, again, because you are the guru of data. So you have all of this information at your fingertips, because all I hear in the background noise of new coders up and coming into this field is they're petrified of AI coming in, sweeping in, and taking over. And coding will no longer be a profession. But you and I know that that's simply not true. The human mind will always be needed.
No, absolutely. I mean, we thought we would see the same thing with AI and radiology diagnosis, and that never took off. It'll always be a supplement too.
Right.
And I think, how do you figure out how to bridge that gap with the software? And that's what we've tried to do. But no, it'll never be a total replacement by any means.
Thank goodness, right? Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing insights from Jordan, my friend. All right. Now, last question before I know you have to go. Now, you're clearly a young, ridiculously talented whippersnapper of a man, right? But what are you still striving for, Jordan? Where am I going to see you in the next 5 years?
I don't know, man. Some people say on my way to a heart attack. I'd
No, I
rather
hope not.
about it.
You
No,
better
no.
not.
I mean, I think where do you see me in 5 years? I think the disruption continues. Definitely, I think some of the things I said 5 years about value-based care and current landscape in healthcare are coming true today.
Right.
Um, maybe I definitely think it'll be on the tech end. I think it'll also be on the health policy end.
Good.
So I think I'll be really pushing my way there, whether it be at the Washington, D.C. level or something like that, but to really get in to have a higher level of influence. But then not forgetting, that patient pathway. Right now it's working it with different hospitals and hospital systems. But again, you see the same things over and over. What I saw in my department in oncology, I saw in other departments in oncology. And then what I saw in the hospitals that those oncology departments were in, I saw at other hospitals. So it's just that, and it's where can you get to make the highest level of influence. But most importantly, I guess where do you see somebody in 5 years was he able to bring together a larger group of people to have further reach and a larger impact, whether it be both in the United States or kind of at a global level for this larger cause of value-based care. And I think that's where my focus is going to be.
I love it. Well, I can definitely see you there in 5 years and beyond. I think you're going to do amazing things for public policy. It's going to be great.
I felt important when I got to shake Seema Verma's hand the other week.
I know. I saw the photo. I was like, oh my God, that's Seema Verma.
I know. It's exactly what I thought. My wife was like, my God, your life's been complete now. Because I mean, literally for her 4 years in office, she heard her name once a week, like Seema Verma said or posted. And so, but no, I think that's it is, how do you leave? You look at those kind of people that had so much adversity, so much of the naysay, yet they were still able to leave that legacy and impact. And I think that's what we've got to, that's what I'm focused on, but I think that's what others have to be focused on. And the thing is to think big, something that, you and I talked about before the show, that some coders just don't have the ability. They just don't see it, that there's a much bigger picture and that they actually fit into that.
They contribute.
Picture.
Yes,
absolutely. And so it's just reach out, call somebody, text somebody, email somebody to figure out how do you fit in that space.
Amazing, Jordan. My goodness. Yes, you are going to be amazing and leave your own legacy and impact long way down the road. So happy that I know you. So happy that I know you. Now, you know what? All my listeners might not know where to find you. So if you don't mind, can you share where my audience can find you?
Easiest place to find me, there's several easy places. One is find me on LinkedIn, Jordan Johnson. The other place to find me is my email. It's just simple. It's jordanj@oncospark.com. And then guys, this is the easiest way to contact me. Call my secretary, no, I'm just playing with you. It's my direct number, guys. It's 318-537-1509. There is no automated press 1, press 2. Like that is my cell phone number. We give it out. Sonal and I were talking about this before. I've given that number out since I was in college when I go to places to speak. And it's what we talked about at the beginning. People just simply don't reach out. And it's like, all you got to do is reach out. I mean, the worst you're going to get from anybody that reaches out to you is I don't have time or I can't right now.
Not right now. Exactly. All we'll say is we don't have time right now, but we will reach out. We will help you because that's what you do. That's
the hard part. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I know the people, and that's, back to, we'll wrap this thing up now, but one of the keys to success is remembering who went out on a limb for you in your early days. And then are you opening doors for others or shutting them? And if you're shutting those doors, it's going to come back to haunt you. And so you need to be opening doors for others, just like people that have kind of paved the way for you, because I've taken it personal. So like the people that have invested in me, like I'm not just doing this for me by any means. There's been a lot of people that have invested in me, time, money, mentorship. So now I've got, an end of the bargain to keep up with them. And so once you have that as your kind of driver, I just don't think you can go wrong.
It's a perfect spot to end, Jordan. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank y'all so much.
And now it's time for my best practice tips in Trusty Tip. So, in today's new Back to Basics compliance tip, I wanted to focus on the importance of documentation and why that phrase, document, 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 in medical coding is so very true. Now, in my experience and in my opinion, I do not see documentation that meets the mark for many, many payers. The job for certified medical coders continues to be very difficult to do for code selection based on documentation. The job for certified medical auditors like myself continues to be very difficult as well to defend providers based on the lack of important pieces of documentation. Now, when I have that important documentation at the ready, I can easily help defend and help overturn any overpayment requests. So, let's dive into what just one of our Medicare administrative contractors, the MACs, had to say about what they have been seeing as the top CERT errors for 2021. And again, CERT is defined as comprehensive error rate testing. Now, there are 4 errors that they've identified. Now, error number 1 for this MAC is inadequate documentation for diagnostic lab tests. So, this MAC says overall there was missing documentation for orders. Now, I cannot stress this one enough because I see it all the time. I'm always asking for the signed order from the treating physician. Why? Why am I asking? Because, as reflected in the Medicare Benefits Manual, Chapter 15, Section 80, it says, quote, "An order is a communication from the treating physician or the treating practitioner requesting that a diagnostic test be performed for a beneficiary," end quote. And guess what? There are actually 3 acceptable ways to communicate your orders. Number 1, of course, is the most common and the most forgotten: the written document signed by the treating physician or the treating practitioner. The second way is by a telephone call from the treating physician or the treating practitioner from his or her office to the testing facility. And finally, third, you can also send an electronic mail or an email from the treating physician, from the treating practitioner, from his or her office to the testing facility. But of course, I always advise that if you're ordering through a phone call or an email, of course, you should document this information that you performed and place it into your practice management system, your EHR, or whatever your practice has in place for capturing this type of information. And the medical necessity for lab tests should be able to be inferred, if not outrightly documented in the treating physician's notes. Now, this MAC also saw a second error, error number 2, for missing documentation that would support the frequency. This error was seen at this MAC for drug tests, specifically definitive drug tests identified with HCPCS code G0843. Now, of course, this error also ties back quite nicely into my very recent Back to Basics with reading your LCDs. Now, the LCD for Controlled Substance Monitoring and Drugs of Abuse Testing outlines exactly what this MAC identified. So, it outlines that there are facts for frequency limitations on urine drug testing. The testing frequency must meet the medical necessity and be documented in the clinician's medical record. For patients with 0 to 90 consecutive days of abstinence, presumptive urine drug testing, or UDT, is expected at a frequency of 1 to 3 presumptive UDTs per week. More than 3 presumptive UDTs in 1 week is not reasonable and not necessary and is simply not covered by Medicare. Then let's move on to error number 3. They identified missing documentation that supports medical necessity. Of course, Again, that goes to any and all pieces of important documentation, the orders, the proofs of delivery for DME products, all of it. And of course, as an auditor, I'm not looking at the LCDs from today to help defend your services and documentation from back in 2019. I'm looking, just like the MAC, at the LCDs that were current and in place at the time those services were rendered. And finally, they identified error number 4. With E&M codes are missing details. Now, this is one of the largest areas of Part B errors for this particular MAC. Of course, this particular MAC saw many issues, but the main one was that billed E&M line items were simply too high against documentation that they reviewed. And remember that E&M is not just those office visits, right? There are actually a whole slew of CPT codes that comprise the evaluation and management section of the CPT coding manual. This MAC saw issues in critical care billing as well as chronic care management billed claims. So, I hope this small series on the back to basics of documentation has proved to be important. It's fundamental if you have Medicare as a payer to document. Make sure you're slowing down and ensuring all the medical necessity elements are captured. All of the important documentation elements are maintained in the patient's medical record. And make sure you're adhering to all of it to ensure you are meeting the medical necessity from the very start. When the documentation paints the medical picture with clarity and vibrancy from the onset of care, a certified medical coder can then abstract codes with accuracy. And finally, in this week's inspiring quote in Spark, it's from our acclaimed American poet, Ralph Waldo Emerson. One idea lights 1,000 candles. So very true, right? I think this is a perfect quote that reminds us, inspires us on the significance of illumination. This impactful statement reveals the power of illumination. This statement shows us that just one light, just one person with that light, that idea of theirs can light and inspire so many others. This single light, single idea has the strength to push through the darkness and illuminate it. I think this is an incredible quote that allows us to remember that the best ideas, the best light, can often catch on like quickfire. This one idea can inspire so many. This one light can spread to so many. I am happy Emerson's spark still burns brightly in all of us today. So that wraps up today's episode. Please go out and make this a great day, an incredible week for yourselves. Aim a little higher, do a little more, and give back in any way you can in 2021. There's so much each one of us can do. Now, in my final note today, it is that time of year of giving. So please start thinking about feeding the hungry in your communities. Offer to gift a family or two in need this holiday season. As always, I appreciate you diving into today with me. And if you want more information from me, please go ahead and follow me on LinkedIn. I'll leave links to everything in the show notes below. Please continue staying safe and healthy. Practice safety for one and all during our collective, seemingly never ever ending life and times of coronavirus. Thank you so much for listening on today's very special episode. And I hope every week with me brings you closer to helping your providers paint a masterpiece. See you next Wednesday.